everyone, and good evening. My name is Robin Cook Brumfield, and I'm thrilled to be here as your leadership development coordinator. I'd like to introduce you to our team, the leadership development team, which consists of Kathleen McEnroe, who's the technology specialist, and Mary Sotomayor, our leadership, our development. Let's see. She is our designated officer. We're proud to have her on our team. We're glad that you were able to join us this evening, and we're confident you will learn some valuable tools to help you grow as leaders in your respectful councils and units. But before we get started, did you know that just by participating in this webinar here, you could qualify for a special leadership pin. Step one is to have at least to attend at least six of these leadership, New York State leadership webinars. Step two, okay, is to, excuse me, I'm sorry. What you need to do is record and implement what the things that you have learned from those webinars and apply them into your unit and your district and show us how you made the difference. And you also, so once you've done those things, you need to demonstrate, as I said, how the information that you're receiving here tonight, as well as the other webinars, how they've made a difference in your units and or councils. And once you've done that, you apply, you make sure that you state the special question, and you've unlocked the key. You've unlocked the key. And again, it allows us to be better leaders within New York State PTA, better leaders within your respectful units. But I started this off and I did not say Happy New Year. So glad that we made it to 2026. So I do want to say that Happy New Year to everyone. But before I kick off and we turn it over to our webinar presenter, Charles, I wanted to give an opportunity for our New York State PTA president to give us some words. Patty?
Thank you so much, Robin. What a pleasure to see everybody tonight. Like Kyle here in Western Region, we are watching the radar for snow to fall, which is always sometimes a good thing because it gives us the opportunity to think, well, we can stay home and catch up on all of our PTA business that we started in December and took a break from for the holidays. So it's a great for us to catch up. I'm so excited for this topic tonight, mainly because one of the things that one of the politicians slash elected officials that has connections all across the state, and that's Theodore Roosevelt. And really, as far back as 1906, Theodore Roosevelt was reaching out to PTA and saying, really a good topic for you to cover is the place of the father in the home. And so we already started back as early as 1906, and really with our start, because we weren't turning anybody away, even though we were the Congress of Mothers. We were turning no one away who were willing to support our children. So we continue that work. It evolves. And I think I took a sneak peek at Charles's presentation, and I really love the way that it is involving in his community at the Baldwin Elementary PTA. And I think you're all going to enjoy hearing what he has to offer. So thank you all for being with us, and thank you, Charles, for joining us as a presenter.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty. And I just want to say that, attending these webinars, it really gives us just a glimpse of how it is that we could become better leaders. And as Patty said, not saying the male voice is a quiet voice, but the male voice is a much needed voice, so that we could, just like we want to hear from our youth, we want to hear from our male counterparts. So what I wanted to do is, before I introduce Charles, I do want to say that the special question, so everyone knows and they're going to listen for it, is what are some of the barriers for male engagement? Again, it's what are some of the barriers that you might see, or that Charles will discuss and talk about, that is for male engagement. So before I'd like to thank Charles. Charles is someone I met during convention. And he and I had a dialogue, and we've spoken since then. And he just really stressed the importance of male engagement. So as I was talking to him, I said, an idea came in my head, and I said, you know what, we need to talk about this topic because lots of times we see the the moms and those who are like moms, the aunts and the grandmas and everyone that are out there, and we just don't see as many of our male counterparts, and it's very much needed. So, Charles, I'm going to give you an opportunity to come and share with us and gather and tell us what we need to do. Charles, I'm going to turn
Thank
it
you.
to you. You can then introduce yourself to the rest of us. Thank you so much, Charles.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Robin. Let me share my screen. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, New York State PTA, for inviting me. My name is Charles Jean-Louis. I am the male engagement lead at Brookside Elementary School, located in Baldwin, New York. Tonight, I want to share not just data, but real stories and moments that show how men's involvement can transform our school community and, most importantly, the lives of our children. In this session, I'll discuss why male engagement matters, what it looks like in action, barriers men face, success stories, and strategies I used at Brookside, and how we could help move this work forward. And then later on, we'll leave some time for some Q&A. So a little bit about myself. So I'm the head of product development at SB Global. I help run my family business. I'm a Little League baseball coach. And most importantly, I'm a proud advocate for male engagement at Brookside Elementary School. Like many others, I lead a very busy life. I have a very busy schedule, but I do believe that when we make time and make it a priority to show up for our children, we build stronger schools and a brighter future for everyone. Whenever I personally walk into a classroom for an event, I'm greeted by a wave of excitement. I've seen kids' face transform, eyes widen, smiles break out just because a male figure is present. There's a special kind of energy in those moments, and it's clear to me how much it means to them. Being there, sharing stories, or just simply showing up lets the kids know that they're seen and supported. It's a privilege to witness firsthand the joy and the confidence that grows when they realize that men in their community really care about them. Let's take a moment to look at the mission of New York State PTA, which guides the work in male engagement. The PTA's vision is to make every child's potential a reality by establishing itself as a premier association for parents' involvement and advocacy. Its main mission is to be a powerful voice for all children, a relevant resource for families and communities, and a strong advocate for education and well-being of every child. One of the key initiatives of the PTA is called PTA More, Men Organized to Raise Engagement. PTA More is an alliance dedicated to promoting father and positive male involvement in children's lives. It supports PTA leaders, it builds male leadership, it expands effective engagement programs, ensuring that men have a meaningful role in our schools and communities. Here's some data about the school I represent. Brookside Elementary serves 234 students from kindergarten to 5th grade, with a teacher to student to teacher ratio of 11:1. Our community is vibrant and is diverse, where 95% of our students are minority descent and nearly half face economic disadvantages. These numbers remind us why every caring adult matters in our children's lives. So what does male engagement look like? It's fathers, grandfathers, uncles, mentors, volunteers reading with students, supporting teachers, and modeling leadership and empathy. Now let's talk about what happens when men get involved in our schools, not in theory, but in real measurable ways. In terms of academic performance, when male role models are present and engaged, students thrive. I'm not talking about small boosts. Studies show that male students with involved male figures actually earn higher grades and do better on standardized tests. In fact, a 2018 report found that when fathers are involved, their kids score better in reading and math. In terms of behavioral outcomes, it's not just about grades. When men show up, we see fewer behavioral issues. Schools with active male participation report lower rates of disciplinary actions. And research tells us that male mentors can really shift boys' attitude about school and even decrease dropout rates. In terms of social development, there's also a big difference in how boys interact with others. Male engagement helps build teamwork and communication skills. Programs that include male mentors often lead to stronger relationships, not between the students and adults, but also amongst the kids themselves. And there's a long game. When male figures are engaged in education, graduation rates go up, and students are more likely to pursue college and post-secondary opportunities. Studies found that students with involved male figures are more likely to continue their education after high school. So when we talk about male engagement, we're talking about real lasting benefits for our kids, academically, behaviorally, socially, and for their futures. When we think about male engagement at Brookside, my mission at Brookside is to build a committed community of men, and there's a big emphasis on a committed community of men who actively supports the growth, well-being, and success of our children in school. So let's be honest here, right? There are barriers. Many men aren't sure how to get involved. Invitations aren't always clear. School activities can feel women-led. Some worry about not fitting in. Others have conflicting work schedules. And cultural expectations can hold men back. When I initially took the role of male engagement at Brookside and I started evangelizing the initiative to other men, I remember one dad feeling so proud about the idea and telling me I always wanted to help, but I didn't know how. That uncertainty is real and it's something that we could change together. So here's what I've done at Brookside to break down those barriers. The first thing I set up was a 3-on-3 male role model basketball tournament. This event promotes healthy activity and connects male role models with other male role models. This was an adult-only game, and as a part of this game, in order to play, we required all players to have a PTA membership. The families were welcome to support their players, and also the kids came together to cheer on their male role models. This past fall marked our second time hosting the tournament, and the dedication from our dads was truly inspiring. I'll never forget one dad who couldn't make it to play because he had to study for his master's degree. Instead of not showing up, he encouraged his oldest son to step in and represent their family on the court. After finishing his studies for that day, that dad still came by to cheer on everyone. And that's the kind of commitment and teamwork we're building, showing up for our kids and for each other, no matter what. The second event that we did was a fund drive for donations. This effort drove a lot of support from our men, showing how male engagement supports school resources and fundraising. I also created a Brookside Dads group chat. I created a Dads group chat for event updates so I could make sure that there's direct and intentional communication to our dads. It also offers mutual support, matching skills and needs. We also use this group chat to schedule time for us men to meet together. At the first meetup, I hosted a barbecue where we required all men who came to the barbecue to sign up as PTA members while we ate steak and discussed ideas for future male engagement activities. In this past December, we some dads and some of their kids volunteered at a local food pantry. This activity models community service, it strengthens family bonds, and it inspires students to give back. It was a special sight to see dads working together, greeting guests at the door, while children working together, packing toys and foods for the holidays. These four efforts itself increased male engagement significantly over the past year. So let's talk about some other ideas we're thinking about to build on the momentum and get even more men involved. First, we have our Dad and Me Literacy Night. These are special evenings where male role models, dads, uncles, grandfathers come in to read with students. It's a simple way to foster both literacy and real connection. We're also looking at skill sharing workshops. This is where men can bring their unique talents, whether it's carpentry, coding, cooking, and share them with our students. It's a great way to enhance learning and mentorship. Community service is another big one. We want to coordinate more volunteer projects where men and students can work side by side, demonstrating what civic responsibility looks like in action. And of course, and this is a big one with the men, right? We can't forget about the sport and wellness programs. We're planning on expanding on the success of the basketball tournaments and initiate more health conscious events with things like fitness challenges, fun runs, intramural games, activities that could get everyone moving and having fun together. And finally, leadership pathways. We're encouraging more men to take on leadership roles in the PTA so their voice can be heard when decisions are needed to be made. These are just a few ways we can make sure male engagement continues to grow and make a difference in our kids' lives. Okay, so I'd like to invite you to consider how these ideas could make a difference at your school. Imagine the impact if every child saw a caring male role model at every school event, every classroom, and every volunteer project. Here are some ways you can get this started. First, set up a male engagement lead and co-lead. Having someone champion this can make all the difference. Stay connected. Create a men's group chat. Share ideas and support one another. Building a network helps keep everyone engaged. Also, the group chat ensures direct and intentional communication to the men. Educate the men on the roles and responsibilities of the PTA. A lot of us are surprised when we find out how critical the PTA is in our children's success. A lot of us think that, hey, we paid our taxes, everything's handled, and don't understand the real work that goes on behind the scene by way of the PTA. Plan activities each semester. This ensures the engagements are continuous. So it's not that we're calling the men one time, is that they have an active participation within our kids' lives. Organize male-only community events. And in the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned creating a community of men, right? So we have to make sure that the bond of the men are tight as well. So that would, for example, with me, if I tell someone in the group chat that I'm going to volunteer at a food pantry, more than likely I'll get 5 other people that'll say, yes, I'll come with you, right? Just because I'm going. So organize male-only community events. These gatherings build friendships and lasting memories. By taking these steps, you can help create a school environment where kids know that they have a team of men cheering for them. In closing, let's remember, when men are invited to contribute in ways that align with their strengths, they become powerful advocates for our schools. Thank you for your time and commitment. I'd love to hear your questions, ideas, experiences, and let's try to change the narrative together.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you. Thank you. You know, just some of the things that you spoke about. And I want everyone to understand that this is not just Brookside. What he has done over at Brookside, you can do wherever you're at. And what I really liked about one of the things you said was let's not just plan one activity. We as the PTA leadership, we need to be specific and intentional in making sure our men are involved. And one of the things you said is every semester. every quarter, what is the male, you know, what's the activity? What is the activity? And so one of the persons has said, and you can also look, Charles, on the in the chat, is your experience in your experience, what has been the biggest barrier? Because that's something, as you see, there's not a lot of men in participating. So what has been the biggest barrier? And was it there before you came to your school and you made the difference, or do you see that there's still a barrier at times?
Um, yeah, so I think that's a good question. I think the biggest barrier, one is not understanding exactly what the PTA does, right? And how influential the PTA is in the activities that goes on in the schools, right? When I speak to them about, hey, the carnival, the fundraising, how you think these things are being funded, or and they're like, oh, okay, okay, so that makes sense now. And also just like some of the activities as well is a big barrier, right? Um,
Right.
some of the activities kind of like class mom, right? Like, sometimes we don't say class dad, right? I think now we've
Mm,
changed it to class parent, right?
yes.
But in the past it was class mom, so that's automatically like kind of excluding the men. Also, another big barrier was cultural expectations was a huge barrier, right? Some of the men felt like they're doing what they need to do. They go to work, so that should be enough, but no, right? And I think once you have someone that's that they could see that's doing it, and they could see by example, hey, I could still go to work and still be involved in my kid's life, right? And actually, um, more men want to do it, right? But there's a misconception as to should men be involved in this, right? But when I speak to
Wow.
men, they do want to do it, right? They just don't know how. They don't know how, and they don't think that they actually fit in the PTA. So I think kind of reframing what the PTA is, who's really involved, right? Is all parents, right?
Mhm.
But in this case, we're trying to get more men involved.
That's awesome, because I think what you said is, when you're explaining what the PTA does, and when you had given the examples, we have this carnival, we have this, but also in a larger uh, um, perspective, when we're thinking about the advocacy
Advocacy.
efforts,
Yes.
you know, um, I tell everyone, I said, that blinking stop sign, the on the school buses, and the seatbelts on the school buses, that came from National PTA, which comes, with PTAs all over the country. That's something we advocated for. We're now getting, pre-K, universal pre-K. That's something we advocated for within
Right.
New York State. So it's important that, again, while it's nice, like you said, the fundraisers, but the things that we are, that have come into laws and have come into opportunities that, again, help with as you said earlier, help with the successful education of our
Mhm.
students, that comes from on the backs of the PTA. And so I think when more of our male members understand that it's not just cupcakes, it's not selling coffee, it's not just a bake sale, it's a lot. And there's so many different areas in which we can really engage and have our men to participate and be included. Um,
We have a couple questions, Robin,
yeah,
that came
I
in.
see. I see that. One of the things is, do you think men respond differently to to the different type when people come to ask them for help? Do they respond differently?
They do, right? So the last comment that I made in the presentation is that So for example, when you have the PTA board, right? There's different seats on the PTA board, right? Some people don't want to probably take the the legislative seat or the treasury seat, right? Maybe that's not their strength, right? So for example, if I for the 3-on-3 basketball game, I don't play that game, right? Because that's not my strength, right? So I don't participate. So it depends on what it is. Not everybody raised their hand for the food pantry, but some people have it in their heart, like, hey, this is something I really want to do. I really want to volunteer more in my community, and they raise their hands. So it depends on what the ask is. I don't think
Mm.
every man is going to raise their hand for all the requests that's being asked of them, but they have to have some kind of participation based on their availability and their strength. And sometimes we have to prioritize that, right? If it really matters, right? You have to prioritize it.
So one of the other questions is how do we strategize? If we're a heavily led female PTA, and we have one dad, one uncle, one somebody that says, "Hey, we want to be engaged. We'll participate in this particular activity." How do we keep them coming? What is it that you would suggest that
Mhm.
we once we have that dad or the male to be engaged with PTA, how do we keep them? Because I think that's one of the things a lot of the PTA struggle with is they'll come for bring your kid to work day, bring your child to work day, but after that they're not they're not coming back. Is it do you believe that when we do have those activities that we could set something up that we can say, hey, dads, this is men, this is for you. What would you suggest?
So three things, right? So first thing is if you have someone that is a lead, right? If you designate one person to be a lead, that person could champion all of these kind of like different activities. Me being the lead at Brookside, I made it so that when I go into the playground now to go for like to pick up my kid, I know all the guys. I say hello to everyone, right? So there's some kind of like community there, right? Um, Two, once you have a lead, and you have like a group of men, you have to take into account their interests and their advice, right? So if they have some kind of suggestion on activities, it can't be like, hey, the PTA set it up, right? If the men come together and think about activities, it's more likely that those activities will happen, and you could if it's for a fundraiser, if it's for like advocacy or whatever it is, if you allow the men to actually come up with some of these ideas, I think that will be helpful in terms of keeping the men back. So building that community of men first is the first strategy. Make sure that the men know each other and they're cordial with each other, like they know each other. And the best way to do that is collect phone numbers, create like a group chat, and the communications have to be direct and intentional to the men,
Mm,
right? You can have
very
like
good.
some emails go out, it goes out to all parents. Then there might be an email that goes out directly to the men, right?
Right.
And they'll respond better that way.
Someone in the chat said dads and donuts, the fireside chat. With the men's fireside chat. And again, just like you did the 3-on-1 basketball game, and I thought that was great because in order to participate again in that activity, you had to be a member of the PTA, and then you've already gotten the men engaged, and so now you just have to work in keeping them there, which is
Right.
great.
Right.
And
And with the membership as well, right? When like some of these things they don't know, right? Because um for whatever reason they're not getting the communication, but when in the group chat when I tell them directly like, hey, we need some more membership accounts to go up because there's a benefit if we have like X amount of membership, and they jumped right on top of it, right?
yeah,
Because
they're
it was
very
like a
competitive.
yeah, it was a direct ask, right? They're like, oh, okay, yeah. And we got some memberships that way as well. So having direct and intentional communication with the men helps a lot.
I really think that one of the things that what you said, which is having that male point person, on the team, because again, um, I can't say, but I believe that men interact with men differently than they interact with women.
Mm,
And just like you said, when you have your dad's or your male group chat and you say something, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And whereas I say it, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, that's Robin talking. But when they hear it from a voice that's like theirs, they just respond differently, which is a good thing to do, which is great, great.
yeah. I,
Um,
I I also think, oh, sorry, Robin. I also think
mm,
everyone's like, good, right? Everybody's like, innately good, right? But some cultural expectations make men feel like they shouldn't be doing that, right? But I think at heart they do want to do it. But then if they see like another male, I could be like considered a male role model, right? They see another male doing it, they're like, hey, I actually can do that and still be a guy and do all these other things and so forth, right? So, and that's why I say we have to build first a community of men, right? Because that's how we were programmed, right? So build a community of men, and then once you have that community, it will open up our minds to like be more engaged in doing stuff like going to the cupcake sale or doing stuff like that, right? Because like our minds are more open because another man is doing it.
right. Let me ask you a question. Is your wife as involved as you are?
She's way more involved than me. She's the PTA president.
Okay. So you let her do her thing and then you work behind and work with the men. That's a good thing. That's good.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing because again, it's really because I was trying to get the how do we get, I didn't know if you were I know you're not the uncle, but again, getting that male representation, no matter where it's at, it has to come from somewhere. And if you know that man has a lot to contribute, I think it's best that we, as a PTA leadership, really try to work with that person to try to get them involved with whatever it is in the PTA. And then it just goes on from there. Then you go from the unit to hopefully the region, hopefully to, New York State and in other ways. And, because every voice matters. And it's not just one voice, it's every voice. And that's what we say in our mission. Every child matters, every voice matters. So why would we think of it any differently as ourselves as adults? As adults, this is good. And someone that actually said representation matters. So I like to think I thought about it myself when I'm looking in the comments and it's already there. So, but again, I just like again, if there are no more questions for Charles, oh, there we go. Great. I'm going to give that back to our president. Go ahead.
Charles, thank you so much for the presentation. First of all, your ending quote I think was amazing, and I would like for us to kind of echo that quite a bit throughout our work here in New York State PTA. I often use for me, my experience in PTA, the napkin story of, you know, us at our PTA meeting and we're having our big carnival of the year. And, as women, we're all trying to decide, should we have red napkins, blue napkins, red and blue, maybe throw in some white. And then the dad who would just raise his hand and say, what does it matter as long as you have napkins? And I always felt like that was always a good step back for all of us to take to say, yes, you're right. We don't need to get caught up so much in those details. And I've always appreciated that kind of perspective. So my question that I wanted to ask you in the work that you're doing and engaging men in your PTA, and to get to the point where you are with the 3-on-3 basketball and volunteering at the pantries, how long did that take?
Um, Honestly, it was an idea, right? So we already set up the group chat. Oh, sorry. Let me step back. As a part of signing up for the basketball game, I collected the men's phone numbers and then I set up a group chat. And initially it was just to speak about the basketball game, right? So that was the first initiative that we did, was the basketball game. So initially the group chat was for, whoever's playing the basketball game, we talk about that, whatever. And then the title of the group chat changed to Brookside Dads group chat, right? So now we're just like talking about other things, right? But that actually did take long because it was something that was interesting to most of the men, right? They wanted to play basketball. They wanted to, they loved the idea of like, behind it that, it's to support the kids, right? To have the kids come together, the dads come together. So that didn't take long. There's some logistics that we had to handle, but that didn't take long. So my next step is to do a Baldwin basketball game, right? So all the other elementary schools in Baldwin, those dads faces other dads, so we could get more of the dads involved, right? So yeah, but that actually didn't take too long because it was something that was like, that sparked the men's interest.
That's really great. So just, that's not discouraging then to people as they go out to try, oh, we're going to start this and we've got a plan for a whole year and try to get things rolling and maybe we misstep at once or twice. You were able to just kind of just like, let's take the idea and go with it and really got a great response. It's encouraging to all of us here on the webinar to bring back to our units to say this can happen pretty quickly. I know also in my elementary school, we had Dad's Day in the lunchroom because we were all allowed to volunteer. I don't know if they allow that so much anymore, but we all volunteered in the lunchroom a couple of, once a month. Everybody went in and we turned Fridays into, we just had a dads volunteer. We paired them together on Fridays. And I have to say our kids responded the best to the Friday in the lunchroom. They were, especially if you were out at the ball field and saw them as coaches or shopping at the grocery store and you ran into them, they would be all excited, like, that's the lunch dad. That never happened with any of the lunch moms. I will honestly say that. So I really appreciate you bringing that perspective into the schools and recognizing that it is a little bit special, and we're going to allow that because we really want that to happen for our kids.
Yeah.
We do. We do. We have another question, and it's actually a good one because um a lot of the, unfortunately, a lot of students where you say dad's coming in and representing and showing up for the kids, it makes a big difference. But how do we make a difference to those kids who unfortunately might not have a dad or a dad-like figure in their lives? How do we make sure that all the children are successful.
Yeah, so I think a male role model, right? It doesn't have to be someone that's like directly related to you, right? Um, any one of the men could be a mentor to a child that doesn't have a male figure in their household or like, close to them, from a family standpoint, right? Um, it's simple as that. We shouldn't exclude, kids because they don't have a physical male person in their lives, right? Maybe this is the chance to get someone in their lives, right? As a mentor, right? So maybe set up some mentorship programs um, with the at the school where if anyone wants to go, we could pair them up with like kids if we know specifically which kids don't have, we could pair them with a mentor, right? So I think there's many ways, and just like being there, right? So if you set up like a kids basketball game and there's men there coaching, reffing the game and working the stands, and they're there to like kind of speak to the boys or girls, that makes a big difference, right? Just the fact that a man is there, I think kids know that men provide a different outlook on life and different perspective, right? And I think kids know that, and just to see men there makes a big difference, right? So I
I
don't
think,
think it needs to be directly related to the child.
right. I think what you said, especially if you have a dad that's repping the game or coaching or whatever, when you're doing that, you're giving everyone, hey, good job, Joe. Okay, good, Jasmine, you're doing well because they're in the game. And I think that, there's a network amongst dads where hey, I know that, Joshua doesn't always come with somebody. Let's, you might want to just encourage, I'm just saying this out, encourage someone to talk to the mom or whoever that mom figure is, and again, not to make the child feel alienated, but to make the child feel included. And that's what we really want. We want Joshua and Jasmine and everyone to feel like, hey, I can participate in this basketball game, or I can participate in the reflections program, or I can do whatever I can do as long as I have that person cheering me on. And you can just be just as good on the court, and you can be just as good off the court. And again, like you said, when you have the men engaged, they're successful, their academics and their education success is just paramount, which is great.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, I coach Little League, right? And that dynamic exists in Little League, right? So I'm a coach, and there could be kids on the team that may not have like a dad or an uncle, but they look up to me, right? So it's the same dynamic that you could bring to the school.
I realized I was on mute. I'm sorry. Someone said male figures can help in quieter ways, like being part of the morning drop off carpool. Yeah, we had a dad that for years while their child was in the school, and his children are I believe one is in college and one is graduating this or last year. But for years, when they were in elementary school, he was the drop off. He was the one that was helping. Hey, come on up, hurry up. And that's a good idea because the kids in the building, they knew who he was because he was the guy. And his job allowed him that time to be the drop off and just get the kids into the building safely, help them get into the building safely. So there are lots of different ways that we can encourage our dads to participate and be participate in the PTA and in at the schools as well. But I just thank you. I thank you for everything that putting this together. This was very impactful and very needed. Very needed. The information that you shared, I hope that will help us. That we will utilize it, and it will help us become stronger within our respectful PTAs, because there were some valuable gems that you shared, and even in the Q&A, it allowed us to expand and really to understand the importance of male engagement. So I just want to thank everyone. If there are no more questions, let me just make sure. I don't want anyone to feel no. Oh, they said thank you. I don't want anyone to feel that they were overlooked, but I thank you, Charles. I thank you for I thank you for tonight, but I really thank you for what you're doing over at Brookside. Wonderful job. Keep getting those dads and the engagement over there. It's making a great difference. And hopefully us that listen, we will take that information and make a great difference in our PTAs. And I just want to thank you again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.